Hello, I'm Deborah Lowry, a lecturer in pharmaceutics from the School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences at Ulster University. In this study, assessment rubrics were developed and evaluated to enhance student understanding and development of scientific writing skill. Scientific writing encourages students to develop and support an argument and communicate their findings in a clear and concise manner, and this is by following specified format and guidelines. However, one hurdle that many instructors have to overcome is to try and clearly communicate to students what is expected in relation to the structure and content of the scientific report. Assessment rubrics could be used for this, and these accurately communicate assignment requirements by articulating the structure and components of the assignment and have been shown to increase consistency in marking. By co-developing rubrics, students will have the opportunity to be active in their own learning. And by engaging with the rubric, then they should be able to self-assess the quality of their work before submission and hence improve their academic performance. The overall aim of the study was to evaluate the efficacy of a rubric co-designed and developed to support and improve student understanding of how to appropriately structure and write a scientific report. Phase 1 was the rubric design. The rubric was designed using the guidelines that had previously been provided to students to write the scientific report. This was then shown during the focus group, with 4 lecturers in the School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, and also a focus group of 6 MPharm students. The student focus group was conducted by a PhD student to allow students to be open and honest about their responses. Following the focus groups, the rubric was revised, and Phase 2 was the implementation of the rubric, where the revised rubric was shared with all second year MPharm students, and the criteria was discussed in detail, and students provided with an opportunity to ask any questions. Phase 3 was the post-implementation evaluation, where a questionnaire was sent out to all second-year MPharm students with a response rate of 15 out of 39. This was after the students received their mark and feedback from their assessment. The questionnaire was also sent to all lecturers in the School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences with a response rate of 8 out of 14, and the report marks before and after the use of the rubric were also analysed. This slide shows some of the student responses to questions relating to the level of clarity and supportive guidance provided by the rubric before and after the submission of the assessment. And you can see that the majority of the students have found that the guidelines are clear and it has helped them in writing the scientific report. Also, 87% of the students said that they have less queries about it and that the guidelines have helped them. And also 87% again have said that they are less surprised by the use, by their grade, by the use of the rubric. Now this is what we would like to see, because we would like the students to be able to use the rubric to self-assess their work. This slide shows a comparison of staff and student responses about when they would actually refer to the rubric compared to what staff would actually expect them to refer to the rubric. And you can see that all the staff have said that they should be looking at the rubric before starting an assignment, and then the vast majority of staff have said that they should also be using it while working on it, just before they've submitted, just to check everything is there, and also after receiving the grade to get the feedback. Looking at the student responses, over 90% of the students have said that yes, they do look at it before starting the assessment. However, as you work through it then while working on it, the number then falls to less than 70%. And less than 50% then of the students said that they would refer to it before submitting an assignment and also after receiving the grade. This is something that we would like to change. We would obviously expect all students to be looking at the rubric as they go through, just to make sure that they're on the right track, and also to get their feedback from the rubric after receiving their grade, so that they can feed forward this into the other assignments. This is just a quick sort of snapshot of 10 students from within that year group and the marks that they received in the scientific report in semester 1 and in semester 2. And semester 1, this was before the rubric was implemented, and semester 2 then was post-rubric implementation. Now you can see from within this, there's a varied amount where some students are increasing their mark and we're seeing some that have actually decreased down. Looking at the overall marks, we actually found that the average mark decreased from 70.5% in semester 1 to 67% in semester 2. So there was a decrease down, with 9 students who actually improved their mark. 2 students had exactly the same mark, and 28 students had decreased marks. We think this reduction in mark was due to the COVID pandemic. This study was carried out in academic year 2019 to 2020, with semester 1 being at the end of 2019 and semester 2 being in start of 2020. This assessment was due in May 2020, so we were well into lockdown at that stage. So we think that just student priorities were possibly elsewhere rather than on doing some of these coursework assignments. This just shows some of the opinions that students have stated, and that the benefits of co-construction of rubrics, looking at the benefits to the students themselves. And you can see from that they're saying that it's good because you can see it from both the staff and the student point of view, so that it's clearer for the staff then to show, well, this is what is required of this. And this was something that came up with all students. Also looking at what the students think is the benefits to lecturers. And this is saying that it's easier to grade having a set of guidelines to compare to, and that is true. It's much easier to grade, so we can sort of compare each student with these set of guidelines. And also they've said that it results in less time being spent questioning lecturers, and which is true. I have found certainly that the use of the rubric has reduced down the amount of questions that I have received about the assignments. So this is something that will hopefully continue into the future. We also got some staff opinions on the benefits of co-construction of rubrics, where you can see that staff are saying that it's good because it will be pitched better to students because the students have been involved with developing it, and it helps with staff communicating what is expected within the assignments. So both from the staff and the student point of view, they think that definitely involving students with the co-construction of these things is very beneficial. Another comment that I actually received from a member of staff would like to see the unexpected but really good category of work. Now this is something that I suppose we need to be putting into the rubrics, and probably possibly over 80%, in that we know when something is really good, it's something different, it's more than just what we're expecting. So this is something that needs to be pointed out to students also in order to provide us with more. So just looking at some of the conclusions to this was a much larger study. I've just sort of highlighted some of the aspects that were carried out. But so looking at the first one was, to what extent does the rubric clearly communicate the assignment requirements? And we've seen that overall student opinions on the rubrics and guidelines showed that they were clear, with 80% having less queries. And all students stated that the rubric and guidelines help them understand what is expected in the assignment. Looking then at to what extent do students utilise the rubric to self-assess. Now we did find that less than 50% of students stated that they do not self-assess. However, instead saying that, in another question I found that 87% stated that the mark received was in line with their expected mark. So this obviously shows that even though the students don't think they're self-assessing, they are, because they obviously have an idea of what the mark might be. And finally then, to what extent does the rubric have an impact on student performance in scientific writing? Now overall we showed that the student performance did not improve. And all these students are pharmacy students, and when lockdown happened, a call out went from the Chief Pharmaceutical Officer for anybody who could to help with the pharmacy profession. So we did find that we did have students that were being called into work to help out in the pharmacies. So we think that was possibly why there was less, the marks were less. Also had a look at the analytics on Blackboard Learn, and the statistics actually showed that the average number of hours reduced from 4.71 hours before lockdown to 2.9 hours after lockdown when they were working remotely. So you can see that those number of hours on Blackboard did decrease down, which sort of shows why that is the case. Now, as I say, this is a study that I would like to continue to work on, and hopefully when things start getting back to normal and the students are back on campus, hopefully we'll be able to have a look and look at all these different aspects of the study again. I would just like to thank the pharmacy students who participated in the study, and also the School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences staff who provided their input also. and thank you very much for listening.